8 reasons parents are returning to biblical values. 3.7 million American families have made a radical choice about their children's education. Here's why they're rejecting what schools teach today. In living rooms and kitchen tables across America, a quiet revolution is taking place. While headlines focus on political divides and cultural battles, an increasing number of parents are making a deeply personal choice to raise their children according to traditional Western biblical values rather than contemporary secular norms. The numbers tell a compelling story. According to the National Home Education Research Institute, homeschooling has surged to 3.7 million students in 2024-2025, representing approximately 6% of all school-age children. This growth reflects more than just educational preferences. The National Center for Education Statistics reports that parents cite concerns about school environment, 83%, dissatisfaction with academic instruction, 72%, and the desire to provide moral instruction, 75%, as their primary motivations. 1. The shift away from secular education. For many Christian families, the decision stems from concerns about what their children encounter in traditional schools. The Christian Research Institute notes that Gen Z has been largely disciplined in sexuality by secular media and sex education curricula filtered through identity politics and feminism, leaving parents feeling their religious values are being undermined. Rebecca Stewart and Jessica Dean, homeschooling advocates who run Virtue Road Academy in Tennessee, explain the urgency many parents feel. They emphasize that children's worldviews are being shaped daily, and parents are seeking teachable moments to integrate faith into everyday life, rather than leaving spiritual formation to institutions that may not share their beliefs. 2. It's more diverse than you think. Contrary to stereotypes, the movement is more diverse than commonly assumed. Research from the Barna Group reveals that only 49% of homeschool parents can be classified as born-again Christians, meaning a slight majority, 51%, are not born-again Christians. Additionally, statistics show that 41% of homeschool families are identified as non-white or non-Hispanic, demonstrating that the desire for values-based education transcends racial and denominational lines. What unites these families is not necessarily theological uniformity, but rather a shared commitment to parental authority over moral instruction. They believe that the responsibility for shaping a child's character, worldview, and values belongs primarily to parents, not to state institutions or cultural influences. 3. The cultural crisis driving change. This parental movement exists within a broader cultural moment. Data from the American Worldview Inventory 2024, conducted by the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University, shows that biblical worldview incidence in the United States has declined from 12% to today's 4% level over 5 consecutive generations. According to the same research, a majority of adults now accept lying, abortion, consensual intercourse between unmarried adults, gay marriage, and the rejection of absolute moral truth as morally acceptable. For parents committed to biblical teachings, these statistics represent an existential challenge. They see their children growing up in a culture that increasingly contradicts fundamental religious principles about family, sexuality, truth, and human dignity. 4. Beyond homeschooling, a lifestyle choice. The rejection of secular norms extends beyond educational choices into family structure itself. Some families have embraced what's been termed the tradwife movement, a social media phenomenon celebrating traditional gender roles where wives focus on homemaking and husbands serve as primary providers. The tradwife lifestyle represents a return to family-centered living and the freedom to build a life aligned with authentic values for many women. Though critics point out complexities and contradictions within the movement, many traditional families reject the label while quietly living out similar values without social media fanfare. 5. Safety, morality, and parental rights. Parents making these choices consistently cite several core concerns: safety and environment. According to Homeschool Facts, 80% of parents who choose home education base their decision on safety issues, including worries about drugs, violence, and negative peer pressure in institutional settings. Moral and religious instruction. Families want their children's education to reinforce rather than contradict their faith. Research from the early 2000s found that nearly 2/3 of homeschooling parents chose this path for reasons of religious and moral instruction. Parental rights. Many parents see their decisions as an exercise of fundamental parental rights that they believe are increasingly under threat. They argue that biblical teaching places the primary responsibility for children's upbringing squarely on parents' shoulders, not on government institutions. 6. The results speak for themselves. Research compiled by the National Home Education Research Institute on homeschooled children reveals generally positive academic outcomes. According to their findings, homeschooled students typically score 15 to 30 percentile points above public school students on standardized academic achievement tests, and they are increasingly recruited by colleges. Beyond academics, the Good Soil study commissioned by the Association of Classical Christian Schools found that religious homeschoolers rank first or second on religious commitment measures, are most likely to marry earliest, and are most likely to have children. For families prioritizing these values, such outcomes represent success. 7. A movement that's here to stay. What makes this trend significant is its staying power. According to tracking by education researchers, despite a brief decline during 2022-2023, homeschooling numbers returned to 2021 levels by 2024, demonstrating that the movement's popularity persists beyond the pandemic. Parents choosing this path often describe it not as retreating from culture, but as proactively building a foundation. They believe that children grounded in biblical principles and strong family bonds will be better equipped, not worse, to engage with a diverse world. 8. Growing recognition and support. Organizations like the Parent Renaissance are applauding these efforts by families who are taking active ownership of their children's moral and spiritual formation. These groups view the movement as a positive assertion of parental rights and a return to family-centered values in an increasingly fragmented culture. The road ahead. As American culture continues to evolve, the tension between secular norms and traditional religious values shows no signs of diminishing. For the millions of families prioritizing biblical principles, their choice represents a conviction that certain truths are worth preserving and passing on regardless of cultural shifts. Whether viewed as a concerning withdrawal from mainstream society or a legitimate exercise of parental rights and religious freedom, this movement reflects a fundamental question facing pluralistic democracies. How do we honor both individual liberty and the common good when citizens hold deeply divergent views about how children should be raised and what values they should learn? For now, the answer appears to be playing out one family at a time, in homes where parents have decided that when it comes to their children's moral and spiritual formation, they would rather trust proven biblical wisdom than contemporary cultural trends. Like and subscribe to The Parent Renaissance.